All right, let's go. All right. Let's talk about the trades.
Okay. Well, Cindy, I got to before we
Not all the trades.
Not all the trades, but Cindy, I got to tell you a funny story. So yesterday, or I should say last week, you were down in Kingston looking at the farm sanctuary. What was it called?
Second Chance. It was in Odessa. It was just unbelievable to see this beautiful sanctuary where unwanted animals, farm animals, alpacas and sheep and all that, each one had a story on.
Boy, the people that own the farm must be pretty rich.
No, well, you know what? It was very understated. It wasn't fancy barns. They had like lean-tos. The animals stayed outside 24/7 through the winter. All had thick coats. The sheep, you can't believe one season in the winter. Have you ever petted a sheep
I've never petted a sheep in my life.
Well, it must have had about 8 inches of solid wool in one season. It was something. They all had manners. I fed a donkey that was part donkey and part zebra. And it was just wonderful. And I wouldn't say they're rich people.
What do the people do?
There's volunteers,
but what are the people that have the animals?
Can they just give them up? They don't want them anymore?
Oh, please. People, the abused animals out there for farm animals, people with pot-bellied pigs that buy them think they're going to be small and then they grow up to be 500-pound pigs. Sheep, they go to the slaughterhouses for the donkeys that are used for meat. Chickens.
We weren't going to talk about that.
Chickens and peacocks and turkeys. It's just the unwanted ducks, and it's just, and the people, as you say, are not rich by any means.
So anyway, Dad and I were watching on YouTube a Bruins Flyers game it was a playoff game back in probably 76 or 77. So we finished watching the game, and I said, "What'd you think, Dad?" And Dad goes, "I thought we would have played rougher." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, I don't know. We didn't play rough enough." And I go, "Well, let's see what happened in that game." In the first shift, Terry O'Reilly knocked out Bobby Clark, really corked him behind the net.
Yeah, he had a pulled groin.
Knocked him out. Then Donnie Marcotte, of all guys, hit Bob Daly, who was a really big defenseman.
Big guy.
I remember him.
Knocked him out of the game. Stan Jonathan put Moose Dupont in the hospital with a punch. And then he fought Mel Bridgman, and Cash fought Hound Dog Kelly, and Gary Doak, of all guys, was running around yelling guys. And I said, "Well, what else did you want to do?"
Well, I don't know. They didn't seem to play.
We were very understated roughness,
Yeah,
right?
it was funny. Like, geez, Dad. He
never got penalties.
put three guys out of the game.
Myers got a penalty last night. I mean, I'd have a tough time coaching now watching this here. And I think they scored on the penalty. And the guy got thrown out. Oh, boy. Some of the penalties. The big thing about it is, too, the referees know. They know what they're told. Call the penalties like hooking and
So what do you think is more entertaining, watching the hockey today or watching the Flyer game in the Bruins? They've totally lost what hockey's about. It's entertainment value.
They're packed houses, a lot of them. So
now they do. Because people don't know what exciting hockey is.
Anyhow, that was... Yeah.
But it was funny though, Dad. We won, and Peter McNabb got 5 points that game. He was
I didn't even know he played.
He was 1 point away for a record for the most points in a playoff game at the time.
Isn't that something?
And he did, like you said. How did Peter? Did Peter play? Because it looked like it was your centers were
Greg Shepard played
a lot, and John Rattel.
Yeah, John Rattel.
Yeah.
By the way, every time I see I read about Matthews blocking shots, I said, why would you have? He's leading the league. Did you know that, Cindy? He is leading the league by not by 1 or 2. He's leading the league. And why would you have your best guy blocking shots. He got hurt last night.
Yeah, I got it right in the side of the knee.
I've seen them. When I used to go to the Leafs game, I'd see them have their superstar, or whatever, kill penalties when they're winning the game big. And I used to say to myself, I don't know hockey, but I often wonder why they use their superstars to kill penalties, especially when they're winning the game.
You know, it's a funny thing you say that. In Rochester, they never understood why I didn't bring up a guy, because the guys that usually got hurt are usually the guys blocking shots. When you kill penalties, you're blocking shots, or you should be blocking shots a lot. And they had the MVP, Dougie Gibson. I remember him, and they had other guys. They were really good scorers, but I didn't need them guys. I needed guys that killed penalties.
Well, you had specialty guys that's what their job.
I had specialties. They were on the ice before. When the referee had his hand in the air, they were ready. They were on the ice already, ready to go.
And that's when you were winning big, you would play them first string.
And when we were winning big, and I remember the players used to say all the time, "Let's go power, let's go power." And I put them on the power play. They were making jokes.
Them on the power play.
Put them on the power play.
So to talk about. Well, we're going to talk about the trades in a minute, though, Dad. But watching that game, the one guy you really relied on was Greg Shepard. He took all the draws.
Yeah, I know.
Took all the draws, killed the penalties, played the point on the power play with Park.
I was stupid.
And you traded him. Like, why
didn't you say that was one of your biggest
regrets?
regrets?
Here was a thought on that. And it wasn't too smart. I thought Dick Redmond, he paid the point for Chicago. Then he I
think you thought it was his brother Mickey.
No, I knew it was Dick. And I thought he'd be a good guy to have the point with Park. No Bobby Orr. I thought,
yeah.
Dumb.
Tell us the story about his first practice with you guys at the Gardens.
Oh, that was a good one.
That was funny.
Yeah, I just thought of it. Well, I'm glad you thought of it.
I thought of it because it was gross when you told me.
Yeah, it's gross. So I kept seeing the brown spots all over the ice, and I thought, geez, the old building,
you thought it was
rust.
dripping from the ceiling.
I thought there was rust coming down from finally the rust coming on the ice. And so Schmatzy come on. He says, Redmond, he's got tobacco, he's spitting. Oh. Jeez. Not needless to say, there was a few words to say.
So did you tell him to stop?
Oh, yeah, in a nice way.
So let's talk about...
I told him, get that.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the trades, Dad. Okay,
all right.
So let's everybody, the Leafs. They got Ryan O'Reilly, who in his little glove
couldn't have got a better guy than Ryan O'Reilly.
He got hit with the puck on his finger in those little gloves.
Those little gloves, boy, they're delicate little things.
And they got McCabe, who's kind of a tougher guy, 6'1", and they got that Lafferty, who's 6 foot, and they got Luke Shen. So I gotta ask you. So they got tougher. And
they get a lot tougher and nasty.
But the funny thing was, I remember we said before on the podcast, you said, if I don't hit you, you're not going to hit me. That's the way it was. Yeah. And then last night, this is Sunday morning, last night in Vancouver, Luke Shen throws 2 big hits, and that's it. Vancouver starts running around. Tyler Myler's just blasted.
Well, don't get Vancouver riled up. Just play the game, and everything could be great. But once one guy hits, then everybody hits. Everybody joins in, or guys that can hit.
Has it ever been that you guys were playing like that with the Bruins, and someone hit a Bruin and woke you up to now play?
Nobody hit the Bruins first.
Oh, really? No. Okay.
So, but I got to ask you a question, Dad. So for the last, 4 years, Kyle Dubas believed in a silver ballet, had a soft team.
He drafted... Can I jump in here for a minute? He drafted 12 Europeans. 12 Europeans.
So, and now all of a sudden he turns, he traded about a third of his team and got a lot tougher. Did he just wake up one morning and say, this isn't working, I better do something? Or do you think...
I know what happened.
What do you think happened, Cindy?
The theory was that he better wake up and start winning because he has a brand new McMansion in Lauren Park where all the rich people live. And if he wants to pay for it, he better smarten up and start winning. So that's my theory.
Well,
Dad.
Do you think somebody told him we got to get tougher, or do you think he did that on his own?
I don't know. He did pretty good in the junior hockey. They had a pretty
Didn't win,
tough.
never won anything.
No, but they
Is
were.
that Shanahan possibly whispering in his ear?
I don't know who whispered in his ear, but somebody must have whispered in his ear because everybody he trades for is around. It's from. Well, I shouldn't say they're all from Toronto, but a lot of them are from around Toronto.
He gets the older Ontario guys after the season a few years.
But I think he's smartened up now. I hope so. But I hope the Leafs win as we speak. They've lost a couple of games. It takes a little while for the team to get going.
Not the Bruins.
How about Boston?
Not Boston, though.
Holy, they could have.
So they got Tyler Bertuzzi at the end.
I think they got him because they had a big deal with Marchand.
Yeah.
And they said, anybody that fights that guy.
And then they got Orlov and then Hathaway.
Yeah, Orlov, he plays about 20-some minutes. Got a goal.
How does that work? Like Matt, like they really had something going, Marchand and Bertuzzi. So Bertuzzi walks into the dressing room for the first time.
No, they'd be all right.
They don't care.
Well, I know Marchand probably liked him.
Yeah, that's true.
As long as he didn't say something. If you say something, then...
Was there ever a pecking order in the dressing room, like who was top dog for toughness when you were there?
I'll tell you one thing. The guy that's tough, everybody likes him because you never know when you're going to need him.
So you were well liked on the team.
Yeah.
Well, they did.
Well, I'm interested to see.
We had
if
about
Boston,
6 guys that were tough.
No, I mean when you played,
Oh,
you were always a tough guy on the team.
Well, I was tough, I guess.
But it'll be interesting to see if the Bruins pull a Tampa, because they put Tyler Hall on long-term injury and Nick Foligno's on long-term injury, and I wonder if they're going to miraculously be better. And they fit in, because it's funny how you say that, because this is again Sunday morning. They played New York yesterday, and Kane looked awful. He was
well,
invisible.
he hadn't played. They had him sitting out. You got to play, and he didn't look very good, to tell you the truth. I hope he plays a lot better for those guys than he did for Chicago at the end there. Well, at the end he did play pretty good.
So, Cindy and Dad, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Spreads.ca. They're a Canadian-owned online sportsbook and casino.
Canadian.
Yep. And if you sign up now and use the promo GRAPES, they'll match your deposit up to $500. You get 10 spins on the big wheel for some big dough, and your first sports bet, they'll spot you $25. So I got to go on to see who's favored to win the Stanley Cup now. And who's kind of moving up there is Dallas. And your buddy Max Domi got traded there. I know. And boy, they really looked good yesterday. They hammered Colorado.
Boy, there was no problem.
So we'll have a shot at the Stanley Cup, Willie.
Yeah. I bet you they come out of the West.
Yeah.
Now I have someone to root for.
Well, they got a good goalie, and they've got everything going for them.
Yeah. So, Dad, the Senators kind of pulled off, I think, of the surprise of the trade. They got Jacob Chychrun, which I thought was great. That
he was the number one guy.
He's the number one guy. They liked him because he still has 2 years left on his contract, and they're making a run for the playoffs.
They just want to make the playoffs. They're taking a pretty good run. And we met Chychrun and his dad.
Jeff, yeah.
Yeah. Boy, they were big, both of them.
Yeah, we were scouting a game in the Hershey Center at the community rink.
That's got to be one of the coldest rinks.
That is. It was absolutely freezing.
We rate rinks by how cold they are, and that's got to be up there.
And so you and I were sitting there, and all of a sudden everything got dark. And we looked up, and Jacob had to be over 6 foot at that time.
Yeah.
And Jeff Chychrun who was a really tough hockey player back in his day.
Yeah, he was a tough guy.
He was there, and he introduced himself and said, my son is going to play for the junior Canadians. And he was living in the States, and he had to get his permission to, you got to get the transfers and everything. And so we met him, and
he was pretty good too.
Yeah, he said, "I'm gonna." Yeah, I remember. Well, he could really go with the puck. Like he could really skate, stuff like that. So it was good to see him. He's in Ottawa. His grandfather.
A nice goal. I got last night. He got a nice goal. Saturday night.
Yeah, and his family's from Ottawa. So you're saying Cindy looks like a movie.
Holy smokes! I saw the clips of him.
Dad's good looking too.
They have a good
and his father and his grandfather
and his sister was beside the grandfather.
They're the whole family.
Really good looking, blonde, blue-eyed.
Could be in the movies.
Yep, for sure.
And then, you look for the Jets. They got that, Niederreiter. They're trying to hang on there. And then the Oilers got that Ekholm and Bugstead to hope.
There's a lot of trades. We could go through the whole deal, but...
So, Dad, I got to ask you, though, we won't go with all the trades, but you were involved with, I think, the biggest trade ever in hockey.
Yeah, goals scored. I guess so.
I think it was Phil Esposito had 68 goals the year before he got traded. He had 61 the year. So in 2 years, he had over 120 goals. And Vadnais had 64 points.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, as a defenseman. And out of the blue, not to the fans, you guys knew... Harry Sinden. They get traded to New York for Brad Park and John Rattel and Joe Zanussi.
I remember the cartoon the next day in the paper. It showed Harry's got Brad Park. He's got a bad knee. Was all taped up, and Rattel's got a bad back. And he says, "This is the." And Emile Francis, he was like a robber down below. Little did they know.
Right. And so what's it like? And we've told the story a couple of times, but people what was it like going to Phil Esposito?
Oh, I remember. So Harry phoned me early, about 5:30 in the morning. He says, you got to get to them quick. He said, the trade has gone through. Boston writers find this out. They'll phone him. So you got to let them know right away.
Yeah, because somebody in New York found out about it.
Yeah, and then they
were
released
going to write about it.
So, yeah, and so anyhow, I phoned Bobby. I was the first guy I phoned was Bobby.
Bobby Orr, he wasn't quite playing. He still was coming.
He was going to play that night.
Yeah.
And I remember, he was really bad because they were good friends. Yeah. And so I said, I phoned you because I don't know why I phoned him. I guess. Anyhow, I phoned him. I guess I phoned him. He was a friend. So we went and we knocked on the door and we opened the door and Phil is there and he's got white silk pajamas on, like
pants in the movies.
Like in a movie.
With his beautiful black hair.
Yeah.
And this is in Vancouver, right?
This is in Vancouver. And so we walk in and it's raining outside and Bobby goes, and he's really mad. I mean, he's really mad because we're breaking up his team. Yeah, we had before. So he goes over and he looks out the window and everything, and Phil, and they thought I was fired.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, he told me that later. Phil told me that later. He said, "You're knocking on the door telling me you were fired." I guess I deserve to be fired.
Yeah, surprise.
We're in second spot. So anyhow, I said to Phil, Phil, you've been traded. No, he started to cry. I mean, that was really something. So he says, Grapes, if you tell me that I've been traded to New York Rangers, I'm going to jump out that window. And I said, Bobby, get away from that window. He said that. He tells that. I think I did say.
Why wouldn't he want to go to New York? You think that would be his mecca?
Yeah, and he became good friends and so then you want to continue?
Yeah, I think the best part is with the Vad story.
Okay, so I go to Vad, and he was rooming with Doki, and I said, Doki, get out of the room for a minute. So he went for a walk, and 5:30 in the morning, telling the guy to go for a walk. So I said, Vad, you've been traded. No, and he didn't say anything. He just sat inside of the bed, and he says, I don't think I can be. And I said, what do you mean? He says, well, Raymond, his wife, wasn't feeling well, and he had it, and he couldn't be traded. So I phoned Harry, and Harry's in his office at that hour. He says, no, he doesn't have, and I could see him flipping the
you could hear him flipping the contract.
All of a sudden, it went dead. And I said, I hung, and he says, I'll phone you back. I said to Vad, we sat there. What are we going to say? I said, Vad, just when you go to New York, you won't be traded unless you get an extra 100 or extra money. So he got an extra $100,000.
All right.
Yeah, and he played well for them too.
Oh yeah,
he would enjoy New York.
No, he was unhappy. I had two unhappy guys, and then I might as well really continue this on. So now we had a morning skate, and Phil come down with and he's crying and everything. Oh boy, what a good deal I had.
Did you tell the team? Like, did you call the team together?
Yeah,
And then
so
how did the team take it?
will I tell you how they took it? So we go out on the ice and I blow the whistle, but I don't know. Somebody said don't move, and nobody moved.
Uh-oh.
So you had a little rebellion going.
A mutiny.
Oh yeah, well there was a mutiny. Well, two guys like that get traded. They've been there a long time, and they were the best defensemen we had outside.
Well, I was saying, Dad, it would be no different, and probably even bigger, if the Leafs out of the blue traded Matthews and Riley.
That'd be the same thing because they're the two best players, and outside of
and
Martin,
not as dominant as those two guys.
No, and 60-some goals. So anyhow, needless to say, I had a few things. I called him over in the corner, and I can't express myself what I said, but I said something rather mean, and they speeded up. And then I remember Bobby coming to me and saying, do you know about this trade? I says, I sure did. Yes, I did. But you know who took the brunt of that was Harry.
But the funny thing was, we talk about trades, is like Harry, it was like the year before you came there, I went to Boston. They'd been to the finals with Philly, right?
Yeah.
And by your second year, almost all those guys were gone. Like Phil was gone, Vad was gone.
Well, that had to be you.
Hodge was gone.
It had to be.
Hodge went for Ricky Middleton. That has to be the trade of the year, trade of the century. Peter McNabb went for Andy Savard.
That was a good trade.
And how about Peter McNabb for Andy Savard?
Oh, how about Middleton for Hodge?
Right. Yeah.
So you got rid of practically half the team after that first season that
you know
coached.
what? You know why? Because they had become fat in the heart.
Well, they were country clubbers, you used to call them, right?
Yeah, but before that they were pretty good. Phil was pretty good. I remember Phil. He had 69 goals.
61 goals. I mean, it wasn't like he took.
And he said, one of the newspaper guys come up to him and said, you had a bad year. You went from 69 goals to 61 goals. 61 goals! And he said, I had a bad year.
So, Dad, one team that's kind of struggling like now, who's going to meet the Leafs in the playoffs, is Tampa. They're in a little bit of a funk. And yesterday, the coach, Cooper, benched for the whole third period Stamkos, Kucherov, and Point. Now, you think that's a bit dangerous doing that?
Well, for the whole period, it is. What you're doing is you're pointing, because the team is going, you're pointing right at them. You can have them miss a few shifts, they still get the point. Don't really tick them off. They'll be okay now.
Dad, did you ever bench anyone that?
Well, here's the funny one. I'll tell you a funny story. Well, I think it's funny now, but it wasn't funny at the time. What happened was, I come in after the game. I think we must have lost. Anyhow, I walked in and I said, bus leaves at 10 o'clock or something, and have six sticks ready for it tomorrow. And all of a sudden, all a crash, and I looked down, and here's Wayne Cashman. He'd thrown his sticks. I was shocked, and I looked in, and needless to say, I had a few words to say. I won't say what I said. Anyhow, so now I'm driving down 114, right?
It was 114. It wasn't Route 1 this time. It was 114.
So in Boston, 114, which is kind of what, like a
side road,
but kind of a deserted road.
It's a deserted road. Remember when the middle, it was one lane, but in the middle lane, there was the three lanes. The middle lane was the one that you passed in, so you played chicken either way. I've never seen that ever before in a road.
I am actually looking. I'm driving home, and it's all steamed up because, I'm all steamed up and everything. And I'm
who's in the car? You and Mom.
I was there.
And
Were you?
No.
And we're not saying much. And we look, and there's Cash and Lynn, his wife. And she's and if some car comes the other way,
because he was in the middle lane.
He's in the middle lane.
They can go either way.
He's in the lane that the
passing lane.
Yeah, passing lane, and he's pointing over to the side, so I go over to the side.
So you guys were driving down the road.
He was mad,
and that didn't cut you off, but he wanted to pull you.
No, he didn't cut me off. He wanted pointed to the side of the road. Did we get out? We got out.
Oh, you got out.
I can't think of it. I can't remember.
Oh, I can remember. Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, you go ahead.
So you pull over. He pulls out in front of. He pulls over in front of you and all this, and he gets out of the car, and you get out of the car, and we're just sitting there, and Lynn's sitting there, and you two verbally, you didn't come to blows, but it was close. You know, you're in between the cars, yelling.
I thought he was going to hit me.
I thought for sure. I remember Mom going, "Well, isn't this nice? Look at this. Isn't this something?" He must have sat
So
there.
what was he mad at?
Well, he was mad at I had benched him. And I don't remember. We must have had a lot of penalties in the row, and he never killed a penalty. So I don't remember benching him. And he was mad at me benching him in the third period.
It must have
In
gone
the third
on.
period.
So how long did they go at it?
I'd say, what, Dad, 15, 20 minutes?
At least 15 minutes.
Least going at it. And I thought, I didn't say anything, Mom, and Mom was
Steam
mumbling.
was coming off the car.
I wonder if they're going to come to blows. You know what I mean?
I thought he was going to hit me. I was all set for him, and I was going to hit him back.
You were getting prepared. It was something to see.
You'd have had to come out and get a
I
separate.
don't know. I was sort of
So did Mom and Lynn, next time they meet, did they ever talk about it? Or they just
nobody talked about it. It was like it never happened. You know, Lynn never talked about it. We just, that's the waspy way of doing things. We don't talk about it.
I don't think the coaches have that
problem now.
Intensity.
So, but the funny thing is, you make him captain.
And then right after,
a couple years later, a year later or so, you made him captain.
Busick was the captain, and he got a bad back, and he couldn't play anymore, so I made him the captain. No, Cash and I are good friends.
Yeah, but he didn't want to be captain, did he?
No, he didn't. He says, I'm not. He says, no, I won't. I said, well, I don't know whether you want it or not. It'll be sewn on, and you'll be sewing on your sweater anyhow.
Yeah, and like you guys go way back, both from Kingston and all.
Both
You're
from
pretty
Kingston.
close.
But I don't know. But I can't even remember benching him. That's what gets me wrong. I don't even know what you're talking about. I think he was more mad about what I had to say than anything else. Anyhow, it was a grand time, and we had a grand time back in those days.